Another opening game at home and another Giants loss in honestly hysterical fashion. 28-6 is the final score, and now the New York Giants in back-to-back seasons have been outscored 68-6 at home. This team was booed off the field day. We're gonna have to talk about it because that's our job here on the Giants Take podcast. We have to do that, unfortunately. But we'll get into it. Players will be dug into. We'll talk about if there's changes that need to be made because I might make a statement here, Alex, about Daniel Jones in a little bit. And we're going to do all that. But first of all, I don't even know why I asked this question because I think I know the answer to it. But I do it every episode, so I might as well. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's not a great situation, obviously, with week one, I guess coming and going and the Giants getting absolutely obliterated in all facets of the game of football, whether that's offense, defense, or special teams. They were just absolutely atrocious. And the, I guess, main guy on this team being Daniel Jones looking very, very poor and, really not lifting those around him at all. So not a great start. A game that the Giants, I think, kind of had to win if they wanted any hope this season. So, kind of upsetting from that standpoint, but not entirely surprising that they lost.
Yeah, we'll definitely go through a holistic lens and go to what's going to happen after this because the Giants the rest of the schedule. That's just game one. So let's start out with normally what we do. We do the offense first, and we move to the defense. We didn't. I think we did this after the Cowboys game too, Alex. After the beginning of last year, there's no reason to go from offense to defense because it was just all bad. So we're just going to hit on everything at once. All right, Carter Coughlin. So we'll just random order. Carter Coughlin went down with an injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Alex, what is the specific on the injury? Do you have that pulled up?
I want to say it's a torn or a torn pec. I'm almost positive, but I will reconfirm right now. But I do believe it was something along those lines. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like Carter Coughlin, a torn pec. Yes, exactly. I was right. Yes. So yeah, that'll be season ending if that is indeed confirmed by the test later on today.
And so tonight, at this point, the test might have been done as we're recording this on 8 o'clock Sunday night. So Carter Coughlin looks like he's going to be missing the rest of the season. Gunnar Olszewski gets injured as well in the beginning, not even in the game, before the game even starts during practice. So then the Giants have to do some maneuvering with who's going to be returning the balls in today's game. Although the kick returning and punt returning didn't really matter at the end of the day, did they? Let's just you know what? I guess we will do offense, defense, and just kind of just rotate position. You know what? That's probably the easiest, right? That we'll do. So let's start out with Daniel Jones, and this is what I talked about earlier. Daniel Jones went 22 for 42 in this game, 186 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6 carries for 15 yards where he scrambled outside of the pocket. Alex, Daniel Jones today, what he was supposed to do, right? He didn't have to do a ton. He just had to show that, first of all, he could work off this ACL tear and, just show that it wasn't going to affect him, which he did that, I think, successfully. I think he showed that the ACL wasn't, lingering and forcing him to not being able to move as much as he used to in and outside of the pocket. So one check. The second check mark plainly show that he is a competent quarterback in the NFL. Doesn't have to be great. Doesn't even have to be good. Average to below average quarterback that can somewhat help the team win. Our defense, we know, is good on the line, especially the edge rushers and the defensive line. Our wide receivers are good. I think that's plain and simple. We have a pretty good wide receivers. They're young core besides Darius Slayton, right? They're all pretty young. Just pass the ball to them, make it somewhat possible for them to catch it, and we can go from there. Jones played one of the worst games I've ever seen him play in the 6 years that he's been on this football team. He was missing guys at least 15 times. His 2 interceptions were atrocious. Atrocious. One of them was in the red zone. He throws to the cornerback, to the defensive back, behind the wide receiver. And then the play where you're throwing to a guy on the edge, you don't see him when you're trying to throw a check down. That is like football IQ 101. That is what you see a high school quarterback do in their freshman year when they have to come in because the senior got hurt. This should not be an issue we have to discuss, Alex, that Daniel Jones accidentally threw a pick six to a guy rushing him off the edge of the line of scrimmage. Are you kidding me? Actually, are you serious?
It's insane. Yeah.
So, I'm going to go to you. But, I mean, shout out to Andrew Van Ginkel. But, come on, man. That's coaching football 101. Speaking of coaching, God, we have to talk about Brian Daboll today, too. But we'll get to him. Let's just knock Jones out of the park first. So, Alex, do you want to speak about him? And then I still haven't even mentioned my take yet, but it reminded me to go back to my giant take. We have to coin that with our name here.
Yeah, I would say with Daniel Jones, it was like a general sense of like almost being uncomfortable in the pocket, uncomfortable out of the pocket. The line actually was holding up reasonably well throughout a lot of sections of the game. And the fact that it just took him so long to process things, it felt like he was just like overthinking absolutely every decision that he was making. And that's something that you just can't do as an NFL quarterback. You have to be decisive. And it's just something that hasn't been there. But I think post ACL actually seems like it's even less, I guess it's not even working as well. He's not processing even as quickly as he was, say, even a year or two ago. And that's the really concerning part, that he should be improving each and every year with that processing and not staring down DBs or staring down receivers. He's got to get better, and he just has not been able to improve. And he looks scared and he looks uncomfortable, to be quite frank.
Alex, my giant take is flat out Daniel Jones, I don't think should start next week. I don't care how much trust you as a fan, you as a podcaster, or you listening as a Giants fan, or whoever you are, that you can have Daniel Jones go out, do whatever the hell I just saw today, and then say, yeah, he's our quarterback for next week. When you signed a guy in Drew Lock that I know he's been struggling with that injury from the preseason, I think it's been enough weeks. I know the guy was an emergency quarterback for the last 2 weeks of the preseason. That was 2 weeks ago. It's going to be 3 weeks next week. I think Drew Lock should start next week. I don't think you can go and you can play Daniel Jones again like that. I think you bench him. As Brian Daboll, if you're the head coach, you're the play caller, and you're going to be like, yeah, I mean, it was a bad game. It was tough, but, we trust Daniel, and he's going to go back there again and show us his best. What is his best? I don't think we've seen his best. And if we have, then that's a problem. And that's why Joe Shane is going out here and telling Ryan Poles at college games, good for you that you don't have to scout a quarterback anymore. Because I do. Because Joe does. Because we are drafting a quarterback next year. If this is what we're going to have to see for the next goddamn 17 weeks, come on. I think Drew Lock should start next week. It's not a matter of how good Drew Lock is. It's a matter of how bad Daniel Jones is, and he shouldn't be rewarded with starting another game next week. And I leave it at that. Alex, do you have anything else before I move on?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that he has to be benched necessarily this week or next week or whatever, but I do think there at least needs to be a conversation about it. And I think he will end up, given the injury guarantee that's in his contract, that I really think they are very terrified of risking going off and being stuck with him for another year. I think, at a certain point, it's going to be enough is enough. And I don't know when that's going to be, but I would have to imagine at some point before week 17 or week 18. That's all I'd say on that front. And I mean, I guess kind of transitioning to, other players on the offense, the running game couldn't get going. The receivers were getting open, right? And that was more of a Daniel Jones issue. Malik Neighbors was open a ton. Wan'Dale Robinson was open a ton. He actually was the most targeted player, joint with Tyreek Hill this whole week 1 so far with 12 targets. Darius Slayton had a couple of drops, had a couple of missteps, but overall was pretty solid as well. So it's not as much a receiving issue as it is a quarterback play issue. And a minimal offensive line issue, but not even as big of an offensive line issue as it used to be. So it's really a lot falling on Daniel Jones, and he's just not able to get it done on the offensive side of the ball. And that's pretty much as simple as you can make it sound. So I think that's pretty much all I'd have to say regarding the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, I mean, you covered the rest of it there. It really falls on Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors, 5 catches, 66 yards. Wanda Robinson, as you mentioned, top targeted receiver, 6 catches, 44 yards. Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 26 yards. And then we had Devin Singletary run 10 carries, 37 yards. The other 2 in this whatever backfield, Eric Ray, 2 carries for 6 yards. Tyron Tracy, 2 carries for 2 yards. So if that's really it on the offense that we have, let's talk about our play caller and Brian Daboll, who decided to take the role from Mike Kafka this season of the Kansas City Chiefs, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. Brian Daboll's play calling today, sure, it didn't help Jones out at all. Brian Daboll's play calling today was also terrible. I mean, the team lost 28-6. He didn't put them in any better position with the plays he was choosing. I think that's plain and simple. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me, Alex, or not, but I just think his situational analysis of certain aspects of when we normally also see like the let's do it kind of guy, Brian Daboll, let's go for it. There was a play, I don't even remember what quarter, it doesn't really matter, where the Giants were going to have a 4th and 1 on the opposing team's 43-yard line. We're down by double-digit point totals. Why not go for it? Why not? You got nothing to lose, Coach Dabes. Really nothing. Your team is down to the Minnesota Vikings in week 1. You have nothing to lose. And yet he still doesn't go for it. And I think we saw that numerous amount of times today. And I think we just saw bad play calling all around from Brian Daboll. I don't know if that's because he has too much on his mind. He's also a head coach managing to call plays simultaneously. I mean, we see other coaches around the NFL doing that, so it really shouldn't be a problem. If that's a problem, then that's a problem on Dabes. It's not a problem on the whole philosophy of calling plays while head coaching. I don't know. I think there was a lot that was promised this season with explosive offensive plays, and we didn't get that today. Not at all.
Yeah, I think the main problem is I think Brian Daboll is almost trying to do too much as the play caller, kind of to make up for Mike Kafka's more bland play calling last season. And I don't think, with Daniel Jones, you just want to keep it simple, make some quick, easy reads for him, and almost treat it like he's a rookie QB, because that's kind of the level that he's playing at this current moment. And I think it's just a little bit too much. This offense has a lot of good run after catch guys, and I think putting them in those types of situations that aren't just screen passes over and over again would be really helpful. So I mean, you can't delve too much into it because it is only week 1, so we'll have to wait and see how it progresses throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, not encouraging signs. That's all I would say. Josh, I mean, if you're good with just transitioning to the defense now, I think this defensive line, interior, Dexter Lawrence looked great. Obviously had that sack, but on the edge, both Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns were very quiet. Linebacker room, Micah McFadden obviously didn't get any snaps today, despite not being listed as questionable. The DB room got absolutely cooked. Deontay Banks could not keep up with Justin Jefferson. Of course, nobody can really keep up with Justin Jefferson, but Cordell Flott was getting toasted. Odori Jackson was not having a good game. Drew Phillips barely got any snaps despite being listed as the starter nickel. So a lot of interesting things. And then Isaiah Simmons also didn't get a snap. So a lot of guys that we had thought were going to have a big role based on training camp and preseason just did not have a big role. So interesting to see how that all happened. And going in now next week into week 2 and week 3 and onwards, is that going to stay the same, or are we going to see some more movement personnel wise?
Yeah, and just before I get my take on the Giants defense, let's do some housekeeping stuff here and take a break. We'll be right back.
Overall, Brian, what would be your message to your team after this ball game?
Yeah, I thought we prepared well. I thought they did good effort. I thought the defense played hard. We gave up a pick 6 down there, and but there's a lot of things to clean up. So again, I got to do a better job all the way around, and that's what I'll do.
All right, so I don't really have much to say on the defense, honestly. I think that in the beginning of the game, especially that first drive, was pretty tremendous, Alex. I mean, do you remember how much energy and electricity was floating around MetLife Stadium at that point? The crowd was going absolutely wild. The Giants shut them down on really 3 straight plays, got a forced fumble on the 3rd play. Don't do anything in the red zone. After that, Dexter Lawrence getting in there for a sack 2 plays into the game. I mean, we were on cloud 9 after that first drive, and I don't think people are going to remember that. Or maybe they will. They're all going to be like, when we look back at this year, or maybe even in a week or two, hey, remember the first drive on defense against the Vikings? Remember how competent and good our defense looked? I think it was hard because our offense couldn't do anything. I mean, Alex, we've had this problem before. Our offense can't do anything, and our defense eventually wears down and gets tired. I think they did a good job covering guys like Justin Jefferson through the first half of the game. And I really think the second half, the team just sort of crumbled. Over time, Minnesota drops 14 in that 3rd quarter. They didn't score any in the 4th. They scored 14 in the first half. I think that the defense, at least in the first half, they did what they needed to do in terms of getting as many stops as they can with the opportunities. And then Daniel Jones and the Giants offense didn't really capitalize. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Only 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. There were pass breakups, clean pass breakups, nice PBUs coming against Justin Jefferson in this game. And I really do applaud the cornerbacks for that. I just think that, like I've been saying, I think that just in a matter of time when your offense just really can't get any production in and you have to keep running onto the field, you're going to get tired. And the Giants defense eventually got tired. And that's just kind of how they went from there. So we cover the offense. We cover the defense. Let's cover what's upcoming. Giants start this season 0-1. Today, they lose 28-6. They're going to play the Commanders next week. Following the Commanders, the Browns, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Eagles. I'll leave it at that. That's the next few games. Out of how many of those games, Commanders, by the way, they're playing next week, lost 37-20 today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jane Daniels looked pretty good, had 2 rushing TDs, looked very mobile. But anyway, that's just an update of Commanders. But besides that game, you see the Giants beating the Browns. You see the Giants beating the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Eagles. Because I don't see them beating any of those teams. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it either, to be completely honest. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough few weeks is all I'm going to say about that. I can't think about it anymore. We'll think about it more on Thursday is all I'm going to say. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know he's got the Domino's looming. I think Alex is ready to go eat. So, with that being said, we thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Giant Take podcast and or watching. If you watch it on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button down below. And we'll be back. We will be back for the Commanders preview later this week. That'll come out on Friday on podcast platform. So if you're watching on YouTube, check it out on there. Social medias are the Giant Take Pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Joshua29. Alex on Twitter at Anorian23. And Alex, I've been mentioning it and shouting it out in every episode so far, and they've still been good. So I'm going to keep doing it. Syracuse volleyball beat reporter for the Citrus TV, the TV station here on campus. The undefeated Syracuse Orange, now 6-0 after this past weekend. So if you want coverage on that team, follow me on my X. And new interview actually coming soon with one of their players, one of their liberos. That's all I'm going to give. You got to wait for that one until later this week. Alex, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, all right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Commanders, I think, is a winnable one, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, excited nonetheless, despite this, kind of underwhelming performance, and hopefully things can only get better is all I'm going to leave it off with. But thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all later this week. Looking forward to the Commanders. Peace.